Hello, this is Dr. Jazairi. I wanted to talk to you about some of the latest kind of state-of-the-art findings about diet, especially in our country, United States. So let me give you a little bit of prelude. A few years ago, there was a study done at University of California, San Francisco, which is a very reputable medical institution. And what they did, they had a group of children. There were, I think, like 10 to 12 or 11 to 13 in that age group. And they had the same number. They divided them into two equal numbers. And they gave them the same amount of calories. But one diet was extremely high in carbohydrates and low in fat. And this was processed carbohydrate. And one diet was extremely high in fat, but very low in carbohydrate. And they, about a month or two after they gave them this diet, they did all kinds of labs. They checked them for diabetes, did CAT scans, all kinds of stuff. And the group that had the high saturated fat, they weren't perfect, but the group that had the high carbohydrate really got messed up. They got pre-diabetes, they gained weight, especially in their stomach area, which is, as you know, is a risk factor for a lot of problems. They had fatty liver on their CAT scans. Some of them were getting early pancreatitis. So I just came across a study recently. This is from I'm going to look at some of these. This is from the 80th Scientific Sessions of the American Diabetic Association. And basically they found the same thing, that even if you have a high saturated fat diet, but you reduce the carbohydrates, they do a lot better than if you have a, low saturated fat diet and high carbohydrate. And it says here, a low carbohydrate diet, despite being higher in saturated fat, decreases circulating saturated fatty acids, and that dietary carbohydrate restriction improved metabolic syndrome independent of weight loss. Metabolic syndrome is a syndrome where you tend to gain weight around your belly, kind of like a tire. You're at risk of hypertension, high blood pressure, the same thing, and diabetes. And the important thing that they have found is the level of palmitoleic acid. I'll put it here. I don't know if you can focus on that. It's palmitoleic acid. And they have found that this is a good marker for high carbohydrate consumption in the blood, and that it increases the risk of metabolic syndrome. And actually there's some suggestions that perhaps we should add that, and all of you may want to consider getting this. The blood test is available. It's to get your blood tested for palmitoleic acid. So that's something you may want to consider. Now, the thing that's important, because most of you are going to say, well, Dr. Jazair, we've read that fruits and vegetables, don't they have carbohydrate? Well, here's the key. It's the nature of the carbohydrate that's more important than the carbohydrate itself. And I have to even add more detail to that. For example, and I'm sorry if I'm going to get some people upset, the pressed juices, where the juice is pressed and the fiber goes to one side and all you're getting is the juice. The problem with that is essentially getting a high carbohydrate drink with the vitamins, but the fiber in the fruit is what it's like if you take a slow release capsule of a medication and the medication is slowly releasing to your bloodstream. That's what the fiber in fruits and vegetables do. So you need, if you love smoothies, you need to get the smoothies where everything is blended. Like you put an apple in there, and the skin and everything gets mixed in there. Fruit juices by themselves are just as bad. And again, it's the nature of carbohydrates. Unfortunately, in this country, we eat a lot of processed foods. I mean, you go to Costco, so that's important. Fruits and vegetables are perfectly fine as long as you're eating the fiber with that. Now, a cardiologist may say, well, yeah, but saturated fats, they also increase your risk of plaques and all that. And so, yes, you do have, in my opinion, the Diabetic Association only mainly looked at sugars and this and that. I think the safest thing, and again, every time you want to change your diet, you should, I think, see your doctor, get a full exam. I'm not saying that, you shouldn't do all of that. Some of you are at risk, genetically, if your father had a heart attack at 40 or 45, you may be someone that just, should not be on a high saturated fat diet. But again, the main culprit over and over seems to be processed carbohydrates. And that's unfortunately sugar, corn syrup, all this bread is not as bad, but it's still not great, and rice. Now, I'm from the Middle East. I mean, I have to be a hermit to have a diet that's totally against my family. I mean, rice is just such a big part of our diet. But I try to minimize it, and I don't eat, I don't eat anything that's corn syrup. I don't eat, a lot of stuff, and we do eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. So at the end of the day, to be on the safe side, we go back to what was recommended, many times. Probably the best diet is a diet that has a lot of protein with vegetables and fruits. So protein, vegetable, and fruits, and not a lot of processed carbohydrates. Now, if you do want to eat fish, and you want to eat wild fatty fish like tuna that's caught in the wild, be careful, because fatty fish that's in the wild, not farmed. For example, Costco has wild Alaskan salmon, but it's farmed, and those are okay. The problem with the wild fish is that, unfortunately, because of us polluting the waters, they do ingest mercury, and they store mercury in their fat. And you can actually look this up. There was an actress, Daphne Zuniga, Zuniga. She was very famous in the 90s. She loved sushi, and she actually wrote something about this. After a while, she developed having memory loss, and she just wasn't feeling well. And they found out that she had mercury poisoning from eating all this, fish. So if you do want to eat wild fish that has a lot of fat, and again, the most common is tuna, limit it to once a week. But, I thought this was important for many of not only health-wise, but a lot of my patients want to lose weight too. So let me talk about that a little bit. So to lose a pound of weight, is essentially 3,500 calories. So to lose a pound of weight, you have to essentially starve yourself for 2 days, because the average calorie for the average person is said to be around 2,000. Now, obviously, if you work out a lot or do other stuff, it will be higher. So, hopefully most of us, you have to watch your weight constantly. And if you're going up by a pound, you got to cut back on your calories. That's the easiest way to maintain your weight. If you want to lose weight, it's really frustrating to try to lose it fast. And I don't believe in these crash diets. I mean, how many of you keep that weight? The only people that I've seen that have been successful long term, they lost the weight slowly on their own. And the recommendation is not to lose more than 10 pounds a month. It's just not healthy. Now here's the thing: if you eat 50 calories more a day, so a date, a date that you can get, it's like fruit, I think. I'm not sure what a date is. But a date, or maybe a couple of teaspoons of sugar, is 50 calories. So if you eat just that extra calorie in 70 days, which is 2 months and 10 days, you've gained a pound, because 50 times 70 is 3,500 calories. And then in a year you've gained 6 pounds, and in 10 years you've gained 60 pounds. So you can see how just that little calorie every day over and over and over can tip you over. Now the good thing is if you eat 50 calories less every day, you're also going to lose that weight, but it's very slow. So, you know, you just have to train yourself not to eat to the point that you're full. Always leave the table before you feel full. Obviously, exercise is always important. I think walking is excellent. Most people can do it, and I don't know what it is about walking, but everybody I know who walks every day for an hour loses weight, and I'm not sure what it is. So I hope all this information was helpful to you. If you do lose some weight and have some loose skin or some issues, you can always visit our website for information, www.drjaz.com, drjaz.com. Thank you.